Hey guys, welcome back to Sports with Mono and Mono. It's July 9th, 2022. Steve, welcome.
Good morning, everybody. Beautiful day here in North Jersey. I believe
Yeah,
we are separated by at least 80 miles, I do believe, today.
yeah, I'm actually down south today and being hosted by our one of our loyal listeners, Diego Cruz, and thank him for having us down. So we got a lot to talk about, Steve, and I just want to start off with our monologue, which of course is sponsored by Coriano Trucking of Summerhill, New York. And it's when I think about like what I watched Max Scherzer pitch, and you and I have seen him pitch, and he's one of the greatest pitchers ever. But this was, I haven't had an opportunity to see him pitch a full game with the Mets, but he was unhittable. And when I look back at Max Scherzer, and we've seen him pitch before, but I never saw like one pitcher just completely baffle an entire major league team. And yes, it was the Cincinnati Reds. I get it, but these are all professional players anyway. But what a remarkable guy. And how old is Max, Steve? He's got to be what, 38, 39, something like
Yeah,
that. Right?
he's every bit of 38, probably 39 now.
Right. But I mean, this guy is absolutely. I mean, he was on the disabled list for God. He missed a month and a half of the season, but he just came back, and he's really one of the greatest pitchers of our generation. And I just, I watched it, and then I realized, along with Randy Johnson, he had 10 strikeouts and no walks. He's second all time to Randy Johnson in that category. Just a great pitcher. And you know what? It bothers me because he plays for the Mets and I don't like the Mets, but I appreciate a guy who's great at his craft, and Max Scherzer is certainly one of those of our generation. You know?
Yeah, I'm glad you recognize that. He has been on the DL, but I don't think it was an overly concerning injury, if you will. And the fact that he was out for a month, I think that also factored into the Mets not really having to rush him back, and they didn't have to rush him back because the Mets are in first place, even though the Braves are still, chopping at the heel, and there's a long way to go. But I think the Mets were cautious with this, rightfully so. And to your point, Max Scherzer, unquestioned in our, I would say, last 10, 15 years, obviously, is right there with Kershaw, Jacob DeGrom, Greg Maddux. I'm just saying who like the current crop of pitchers, and obviously Jacob DeGrom. So the Mets, if all goes well with DeGrom and Scherzer after the All-Star break are primed, and the Mets are absolutely going to make a deal to shore up whatever Buck Showalter and Billy Epler feel they need to make the run. But the Atlanta Braves are hitting on all cylinders, and it's going to be fun to watch the Mets and Braves get their, the pennant race in September. But this is good. Yeah, but Max Scherzer, first ballot Hall of Famer. And again, our anybody that watches our show when it comes to the Hall of Famer.
We don't use that statement very lightly.
Right, but it goes to your point of bringing him up on your monologue that we're watching greatness, and Max Scherzer is great, no question.
Yep. So let's stick with baseball for a minute. There was, I don't know if you saw this. It was really disturbing, this collision, and it's actually the second collision between outfielder and infielder. It happened with the Houston Astros a couple of weeks ago, but this guy actually got kneed right in the jaw, and then I think it was Jurickson Profar, I think, and he got up and started walking in, and then he just collapsed again. It was frightening. I mean, frightening.
No, yeah, I mean that I mean, that's a car accident. It's the equivalent of a car accident. It's no
Yeah, it
question.
really was.
We saw this in hockey last year. I'm drawing a blank on who took the John Tavares thing for Toronto. Remember last year when
Oh,
Tavares
yes.
Tavares
Exactly.
took that knee, similar to that. I mean, that's a concussion. I mean, we're witnessing a concussion in real time.
It was.
So the fact that he got up and walked and fell down, I've actually been there. I hate to say it, on a football field. I've had multiple concussions playing football, so I kind of get it. But yeah, I mean, it happens. When you got two supreme athletes running.
Full speed.
And meeting at a train is going 80 miles an hour this way, and the east, and the other train's going 60 miles an hour west, and they meet in the middle. Well, what's the answer? A concussion, a knee to the head.
But it was so odd that it was like two of these happened in like within a week or two. It was frightening.
Yeah.
But you know what, Steve? I was thinking about, the Yankees, and they're chasing the all-time wins record, 116 games. And it's, they just keep winning and winning and winning. And in spite of guys hitting 220, 230, in spite of Joey Gallo, they just keep winning. I mean, I think there's a real chance that they could, unless they go into a terrible tailspin. I think 116 is reachable. Do you think so?
No.
No?
No. And so what if they finish with 110, 109, 111? Okay, you want to call it a tailspin? I mean, again, I'm hard, and I actually talked about this a lot this week with my fellow Yankee brethren, and we all look at each other, and it's not like, there's 9 all-stars lining up. And you have Randy Johnson and Max Scherzer and Jacob deGrom and Sandy Koufax on the mound. The answer, we look at each other and say, this is no smoke and mirrors. And the reason I'm saying that is Joey Gallo, right? I mean, Joey Gallo is on the New York Yankees, and is probably the worst hitter to ad nauseum that we've ever seen.
I know.
Ever seen. And we're talking about bums that we have seen in the past. So this is unbelievable. This is like Milli Vanilli, over the Beatles or something. This is like crazy.
But you're right. I mean, that's what's so unbelievable about the Yankees. You look at the lineup, and some guys are hitting, some aren't. But I will bring this up, and I know James Walsh is listening. I remember you guys both wanted to throw Gleyber Torres out in the trash, and I said, you got to hang in with this kid, and he's starting to turn it around. He's a major league player now. I'm glad the Yankees kept him.
Right, and again, our loyal listeners know I threw him under the bus for not running out that ground ball. I don't care that it was a meaningless game against the Baltimore Orioles. I don't care we were losing 9-0. I'm a baseball purist. I played the game. I was pretty good at it. And, I take it seriously. I take the effort seriously. As much as I dislike Peter Edward Rose from a personal standpoint, never once did I ever, to this day, question when he crossed the white lines. He was all business, like it or not. But, that's what I expect. That's what I expect out of Major League. That's what I expect out of any college athlete on scholarship or any professional ball player. When you cross whatever white line you cross, you give your maximum effort. Now back to Gleyber Torres. Yeah, he's a nice player. But again, when we acquired Gleyber Torres, he was ranked the number 1, number 2 prospect in all of baseball. And we're only talking maybe now 5 years, maybe 6 at most.
Yeah, 5.
And I still don't think he's lived up to expectations of that. But I'm not throwing him under the bus. He is an integral part of the Yankees. Second base is definitely is where he belongs, and I'll leave it at that. But
And you're right, Steve. I'm not by any stretch. I'm exactly like you. You and I, we put 100% effort in every time we stepped on whatever field we were playing. And I think that was a kind of a wake up call for him. And I think I certainly don't defend that because I watched Jose Trevino just the other day hit a pop up and he ran and he actually got to second base on an infield pop that was missed by the first baseman. I love that kind of effort.
yeah, well, I'm glad you brought that up because I spoke to my brother Chris yesterday in the afternoon or something quickly, and he brought that up. Do you know that was actually ruled a double by the official score?
I that's impossible.
It was ruled a double.
No, I know, but it's not a double. It's an error.
Well, I know that, so I'm explaining to the audience here. A major league first baseman on a pop up between the pitcher's mound, and you can't feel that. Now, it's absurd. Number one, but let's pat Jose Trevino on the back for being at second base on a pop up in the infield. Okay, that's what we're talking about. Is the effort, and how long is that effort? I don't know. What did it take him? Maybe 8 seconds,
if that,
to leave the batter's box to run to second base.
Yep.
And whether that happens once in 1.5 million times, that's what it's about.
Yep, absolutely. But so baseball, we're getting up to the All-Star games coming up, so that's usually the half point of the season, and the Yanks just keep rolling. But you're right. I'm glad you brought up the Atlanta Braves because they're a team to be. As good as the Mets have been, they're not running away with it, and they're just as hot. And it's going to be a down to the wire thing. I mean, obviously, both of them will make the playoffs, whether it be wild card or win the division. But they're a good baseball team.
Yeah, the National League's got really good teams. The Mets, the Braves, Dodgers.
Yep, very good. So, Steve, let's talk. Let's go over the pond to Wimbledon because. It looked like exactly the dream matchup we were hoping to see with Rafael Nadal and Novak Djokovic. And unfortunately, but I was actually talking with Mike Garvey, who's a big time tennis guy, and he noticed the same thing I did when I was watching him against Taylor Fritz. I said, wait a minute, something doesn't seem right with him because his serve. I don't know if he even had one ace in that match, but I could tell that he was something was amiss, and it turns out he had some abdominal tear or something, which forced him to withdraw from Wimbledon and lose the opportunity to win the third Grand Slam of the year, and it's disappointing, but he had to be hurting because it would have been. He said, I couldn't win 2 more matches. So it was sad to see. And I think that sets up, kind of an interesting thing. I actually, when I wrote my little column yesterday, it was about the matchup between just before I actually put it up. And then found out Nadal, had withdrawn. I had Djokovic winning anyway. I thought he could still be he could beat Nadal in the final. So I'm not wavering from that. I don't like this guy Kyrgios at all. He is good and he serves unbelievable. Like I was thinking back on who had one of those. Remember when we were growing up, Steve, when one of the greatest serves was Roscoe Tanner. Remember how ferociously this guy
but it didn't translate
miles an hour.
It didn't translate to a major. I don't think Roscoe Tanner won one major, but we love him.
So either. But so it's Kyrgios and Nadal in the final. No, I mean Kyrgios and Djokovic in the final. It's been some great tennis. That match with Nadal and Taylor Fritz was phenomenal. And I got to tell you, I don't know if I brought it up, but Serena Williams, her first match and just courageous as she was to even hang in there with that kid. Wimbledon is great. Tennis is outstanding, and the girls are playing right now. I don't know. It's
Rybayanka just won it.
Rabakina.
Thanks for the update, Rob.
Yeah.
I was just watching it. It looked like a pretty good match, actually. It wasn't like it was a back and forth. I think it went the 3 sets.
I know.
But I want to go back to Nadal.
Please.
The fact that he finished that match and won without having the ability to serve this, that, and the other thing. And anybody knows an abdominal, a rib, it could be a tiny little thing that when you breathe,
yeah, you can't even comb your hair.
You want to hang yourself, okay? So to me, this, not that he needs any further cementing whatsoever, Rafael Nadal, to me, that just goes, I just put it in the back of my head, like, thank you, Rafi. Like, thank you for trying. Thank you for the effort. And then obviously, if he can't show up, right, for the semifinal, you know why? Because he can't.
He couldn't do it.
Right? And then I want to go back to Kyrgios or whatever he is. I put him in now category with one Mr. Robbie Alomar as a spitter. Okay? I want nothing to do with this guy. Nothing. I hope he gets his ass kicked by Joker, and I had Joker winning this anyway. But I swear to God, I would love a 6-0, 6-0, 6-0 beat down on this bitch.
Yeah, he's not.
He ain't for me, and I'm not rooting for him. He's a punk.
He is a punk, and he's actually facing domestic violence charges as soon as he's finished getting his butt kicked by Joker. So
right. So anytime this guy takes the court, I would love for you to try and spit on me, Nick.
Yeah, he's an animal. This guy. I mean, he's a good tennis player, but he's
I'm not saying he's not, and the fact that he is where he is, but he's a punk bitch.
Yeah. So, Steve, let's move on for our NFL fans, because we're rapidly approaching, right? Less than 3 weeks away from training camp, and the big deal was finally done. Baker Mayfield got traded for a bag of footballs, basically. I'm not happy with the way he was treated in Cleveland. I thought it was very unprofessional of them, but I don't think he's a great quarterback anyway. I mean, so literally traded him for a 5th-round draft pick. I mean, so now he's got, now Carolina's got a mediocre Baker Mayfield, a mediocre Sam Darnold. And I'd like to see Matt Corral beat both of them out and be the quarterback I think he can be.
Well, that's not happening. But again, it goes back to the NFL draft for me. So what are we talking about now? So the Cleveland Browns, and I agree, the Cleveland Browns handled this extremely unprofessional. And I really hope, like I've said, I hope they choke on Deshaun Watson, and I hope they eat $230 million guaranteed dollars for this piece of garbage. That being said, back to the NFL draft. So what are we, year 4 or 5 or 4, whatever it is now? And what are we doing on a Thursday night 3-4 years ago? Baker Mayfield, the number 1 pick. Ooh. Sam Darnold, the number 3 pick. Ooh. Right? And now what are we talking? Not even 4 years. Mayfield stinks. Darnold stinks. And this is the number 1 and the number 3 drafted quarterback in the first round in the top 3 picks. So now we're looking at Carolina like they got 2 heads. There's still, I'm not throwing Baker Mayfield to the side yet. He hasn't lived up to the expectations, and obviously Darnold hasn't. And again, I was on record that Darnold to the Jets I thought was an okay pick. But here we are, and if I have to be a betting man, which I'm a handicapper, I'll go with Baker Mayfield's going to be the starting quarterback for the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably
And this isn't a
right.
big stretch by any stretch, but we'll see. Change of scenery. If Baker Mayfield's healthy, um, I think he can be a successful quarterback. He's
But
not going to be an all pro. He's not going to be, like one of the young guns, a Herbert and, guys like this that just, are special talents, right?
they're
So
an
that
awful team anyway. They don't have anything. I mean,
I understand, but if you give him the groceries around him, I think Baker Mayfield can be an okay quarterback.
well, I think you're right that I mean he should easily be able to beat out Sam Darnold. Who's
I don't think it should be easily. Sam Darnold is going to compete.
he's a bust.
Who's the offensive coordinator? Ben McAdoo.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Good luck with that. So,
There was also another, again, and you and I have talked about this extensively, this whole CTE thing. And, from your alma mater, actually, Dr. McKee has kind of been at the forefront. And
now she has.
Yeah,
No question.
Demaryius Thomas, ultimately just came out that he was suffering from this CTE, and it's a real thing. And
No,
it's
no
just,
question.
it was just terrible to see that. But I mean, we know that that's kind of the possibility that could happen when you play such a violent game. But it's sad to see, and at least the league is. I want to say, I mean, taking a lot of good steps. It does kind of change the way the game is a little bit played. And you and we go back a long ways. We're traditionalists kind of thing. But I mean, for the safety of these guys, you can see this with the Junior Seau's and the Demaryius Thomas. It's just sad to see.
No, very sad to see. And I actually thought of Junior Seau, being that they're young, they're younger than us, obviously. Demaryius Thomas in his early 40s now. There's 4 stages of CTE. Once you get to the 4th stage, which, if you've seen the movie Concussion, the scene with David Morse playing Mike Webster, and again when Mike Webster, who is one of our all-time greats, Mike Webster had stage 4. Mike Webster probably had a stage 5. It was so disturbing to see how Mike Webster's life deteriorated due to this, and to hear that Demaryius Thomas had stage 2 at like age 41, 42, but many had it for the last 10 years probably.
Yeah.
And it's just tragic. And I'll kind of dispute your take, if you will, that the NFL is doing. The NFL, it's not good for business, put it that way.
Well,
I'll leave it at that.
Okay.
Because we know, we've had this discussion from the Jim Ottos of the world, and the fact that it's taken this long for the NFL to give money, and then these guys are trying to negotiate. What a retired player who has proven, the guy, a Dave Duerson type of player who winds up blowing his brains out.
I know,
right? When they're asking for help. And this is only 10, 15 years ago. So I am not giving the NFL any kudos here.
No, and Steve, I think you read it, but I certainly read that book, League of Denial. That was literally the coming out and exposing the NFL for being the
hypocrites they are.
The dirty, yeah. I mean, just to deny these guys benefits from all the money that they made.
That's what I'm talking about.
And one thing that stood out to me in that book, and was the episode with Troy Aikman, who had such severe concussion. He says he didn't even remember the 3rd Super Bowl that he played in. I mean, and the NFL is kind of, like I said, I mean, give Mike Ditka all credit in the world for fighting for these guys and say, wait a minute, they gave their heart and soul. Now they gave their lives for this game, and you guys want to deny
Right.
So Roger Goodell could get $49 million a year.
63.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Amazing to me. But that's a book, if you guys haven't read it, it's actually, you brought up Concussion, the movie, and that's basically, it was based on that book. So I would suggest reading that book to our loyal listeners if you hadn't, because it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking.
If there was a fight between Ditka and Goodell, who would you take? I'm going with Ditka all the way.
Very good. Listen, one other thing, and I wanted your take on this because I saw the semifinalist for the NFL Hall of Fame, and the only two names that I saw were Billy White Shoes Johnson. And I wanted to ask you, I said, Hall of Fame, kick returner? I don't know. What do you think?
Devin Hester is proven to be probably the all-time, right?
Yeah, I guess.
But I'll say this. I'll kind of, and I'm not comparing him to Joe Namath by any stretch of the imagination. I'm just saying that Billy White Shoes Johnson in the early 70s was in mid 70s
dynamic, right?
Dynamic, entertaining, and productive. And what are we talking here? We're not talking about Billy White Shoes Johnson going into the Hall of Fame as a, Jerry Rice or something like that.
Yep.
From a kick returning, if that's all we're talking about, which is special teams in part, obviously, of the game.
Yeah.
I don't think I have a problem with that.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. Actually, I think he was certainly fun to watch, but he did. You're right. If you want to just say from a special teams perspective, but he put them in position to win games with his kick return. So
Right.
I would vote for him based on that. Yeah, he's not. You're absolutely right. He's not going in like Troy Aikman, that kind of impact player.
He brought joy to the game. Like,
yeah,
like his touchdown celebration before, obviously became, what it is in today's society. But his wagging of the knees, and especially after an electric return of 75, 80 yards, I enjoyed it. I got to say, I was a fan of Billy White Shoes. And just that nickname alone is cool, too, because he did have white shoes.
There was one other name on that list, and I could have sworn that, from an owner perspective, Bud Adams from Houston, I thought for sure he was very instrumental in the merger with the NFL and the AFL, and they had a couple of championships in the AFL, and they had some really obviously good teams with Earl Campbell and Pastorini at the helm. I was a little surprised that he's not in the Hall of Fame. I thought he was a pretty impactful owner,
Yeah, and again, he uprooted Houston to Tennessee. To be honest, I know of Bud Adams, but I don't know extensively, kind of like other owners that I do. So I'd have to research it further before I could actually give you an articulate opinion on Bud.
Yeah, but I actually, when you look at an owner, I thought.
But I do know he had some. I think when they went to Tennessee, I don't think the transition from Houston to Tennessee went smoothly at all, and I don't think Bud Adams was like a warm, fuzzy type of guy. That's what I do know.
Yeah, I mean, he was a Texan for sure, but
no question.
I thought it was impactful though. So listen, training camp's coming up in the NFL. We kind of like it. I don't want to hear anything about Aaron Rodgers anymore, to be quite honest with you. But football is football, and those are our roots. So let's go on, Steve. I wanted to talk to you. There were a couple trades in the NHL. Rangers traded Alexander Georgiev to the now defending champion Colorado Avalanche. What do you think about that?
I think it's a shrewd move by Drury. Now, this Monday, 48 hours from now, if Drury wasn't able to move Georgiev, he was walking. He was due like $2.5 million, which doesn't sound like a lot of money, but it is when it comes to backup goalies in the NHL.
Yeah.
And Drury, to his credit, we got a third round, we got like a fourth, and I think a fifth. So we got 3 draft picks. I equate this to when the Rangers had to give up Cam Talbot. He was not going to supplant Lundqvist, and Edmonton snatched in and got him, and we got something for him. But it's good for Georgiev. He was never, obviously he's never going to beat out Igor, and So listen, we got something for it. It's not much, but something, as opposed to letting him walk away. So I'm okay with that.
And the other thing from a trade, it was kind of surprising. He was kind of a pivotal part of the 2-time Stanley Cup champions. Ryan McDonagh was traded from Tampa Bay Lightning, and I think it was a cost-cutting move.
No question.
Right?
Ryan McDonagh, again, it was Rangers are fortunate to get him from Montreal. He turned out to be a very good Ranger. Was instrumental in us getting to the finals against the Kings. And listen, Ryan McDonagh's got a couple cups now with the Lightning. Cost cutting, absolutely.
Yeah.
But he's going to Nashville. Ryan McDonagh's had a very serviceable NHL career, and I don't see Ryan McDonagh retiring for another 3-4 years.
Yeah. And one last thing when we're on hockey was Mike Greer was named the general manager. So he's the first black general manager in the NHL. And we certainly remember him. He was a scrappy, tough player.
Mike Greer's a Boston University guy.
Is that right? I didn't know that.
Absolutely. Yes, he is.
So he joins his brother, who's the general manager of the Miami Dolphins. So, I mean, good for him, man.
No question. Absolutely. Mike Greer is a class kid. No question. And good for him. And it's about time. And Mike Greer, thumbs up.
Big time. I agree. So the only other thing with hockey, I thought this guy Shane Wright was supposed to be the #1 pick. He ended up dropping to 4. So, I was looking at this guy. He never went to college. He's been playing like junior hockey since he's 15.
Yeah.
He ends up going number 4, I think, to the Kraken or something.
To the Kraken.
Yeah.
So
that was a little surprise. I can't even remember who was the first pick over them. But I thought.
Well, that's what's funny about it. I'm at work and I work with Frank. I've referenced Frank's diehard Ranger fan too, diehard hockey fan, and we're laughing. So the draft was Thursday night, I think it was, and then it started up again. The Rangers didn't have a pick on Thursday night, so their first pick was like at 11 in the morning or something on Friday.
Right.
But on Thursday, and again, Frank is like early 30s, so he's of the Twitter generation and that instant social media type of stuff. And you and I are 2 grizzled grandfathers, for Christ's sake. But so during the day, Frank is following this stuff. So, his this is my desk, and Frank is about 10 feet ahead of me. So he's turning around, and so when he's got breaking news for me, or he thinks it's it's had some credible nature to it, he always gets up, and then he walks to the hand sanitizer, and I don't even know if he does this. But when he's about to break his news, he gets the hand sign, then he does this. And he walks up to me and he says, I'm hearing that the Rangers are talking to the Devils for the #2 pick. Now, if Shane Wright falls, if the Canadians don't take Shane Wright, I'm hearing Kako, this, the other thing. Because Brennan Ottman, who we drafted #1 last year, is best friends with Shane Wright. And so Shane Wright is a center from Canada, like you said, didn't play. But I'm like, done. Done. You kidding me? But it didn't happen. But Shane Wright falling to number 4 was surprising.
Yeah, it was.
And I don't. And the Montreal fans let the management know. But yeah. So then once it got past Shane Wright at number 4, that's when I said to Frank, I said, you can turn it off as far as I'm concerned, because I couldn't tell you the name of this Swede, this Finn, this Slovakian, this Russian. I don't know the names.
Well, that was also the point I was alluding to, was from this draft, and it threw in a lot of people are leery of picking Russian players now with what's going on and so forth. So, but yeah, that was just a surprise. But a couple of trades, and like I said, congratulations to Mike Grier.
Yeah, but Drury stood pat. We'll see if these kids, they had like the 62nd, 63rd overall pick, something along those lines.
Yeah.
So they got a centerman and they got a wing, and we'll see. The Rangers got some really good players in the system. But the other thing, I was hearing that Drury is trying to get JT Miller back in the fold with the New York Rangers. And also there was a story that Lou Lamoriello with the Islanders was sniffing JT Miller, and that was actually getting some momentum. And then word leaked out that Lamoriello was after JT Miller, and everybody that knows Lou Lamoriello knows he doesn't F around. So he felt that because it leaked, that would give leverage to Vancouver to up the ante from a trade perspective. So Lamoriello backed off. I'm not saying that JT Miller can't wind up with the Islanders at some point, but I am a huge JT Miller fan. He's 29 now, and I would love him back as a New York Ranger as a second line guy to shore up the second line.
Yeah, he's a solid hockey player.
Oh, he's
no doubt. So, Steve, let's move on to our random points of interest, which, of course, is sponsored by Lynch Toyota of Manchester, Connecticut. And listen, it's a sport, I guess, right? Joey Chestnut successfully defended his title at Nathan's hot dog eating contest. But you, the handicapper, I wanted to bring this up. I mean, I believe you could actually have bet
you can
over and under of the now. How corrupt is that? You think Joey Chestnut didn't have $100,000 on Joey Chestnut to either eat 63 hot dogs? The guy ate 79 last year.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's one of my pet peeves with legalized.
Oh, you're saying Joey planted somebody to come up and protest so Joey could bear hug him.
I don't have any
that was the
grounds
excuse that Joey only knocked out 63. Huh.
But how crazy!
I need more proof.
To a bet on a hot dog eating contest. That's perplexing to me.
You name anybody other than me and you as bigger hot dog fans?
I know, but I just thought it was. I was laughing, saying, "You know what? This stinks. This smells like hot dogs." That you could bet on the over and under of how many hot dogs.
Why are you surprised by that?
I don't know.
You can bet on the freaking coin flip of the fucking Super Bowl, for Christ's sake.
I know. I just find it to be incredible.
Right, the NFL draft. Who's number one? Who's number two? Who's number three?
I know.
You bet on anything.
Right, but I'm saying Joey Chestnut was in complete control of how many hot dogs he was going to eat. That's what I'm saying. Like,
whether or not he ate 63 or 79, the next guy is not even. Is still way in the rearview mirror.
I know. I just thought it was funny. Hey, congratulations, Joey! You're a 15-time champ at the Nathan. You and I were in Coney Island. Remember, we went to a game I think we went to a Cyclones game. Yeah.
I only knocked out. I think I knocked out 18 that day. What did you have?
I don't think so. But there was also something happened in Major League Baseball, and we're talking about never happened before. I thought, baseball's 100 and some odd years old. An 8-5 triple play. Did you see that?
I did.
Yeah, it was something that's never happened in Major League Baseball. That's hard to do, but that
Yeah.
was pretty cool.
Yeah. But that's the thing about baseball. It really is. It's you can come to the park and see something you never seen before in the history of the game, which is over 100 years old.
Yeah.
And it's true. It really is true.
Yeah, it is.
Right. I've never seen something like this. I've never seen that. I've never seen this. I've never, right? Never.
But I mean, no one's ever seen an 8-5 triple play or something. I mean, it was shitty, lousy base running, which contributed to it. But I just
that's what happens.
Yeah.
But I'll say this, and I said this to a few of my friends. I'm watching the Yankees on Sunday playing the Cleveland Indians, right? And our dear whipping boy Joey Gallo's up at the plate, and once he gets one strike, it's over. Once he gets two strikes, it's really over. Let alone officially the third one.
Right.
But when he had two strikes on him, I forget who the pitcher was, and he throws, a changeup at, he could throw anything at Joey Gallo. He's not hitting it, right? Yep. But he throws his changeup, and the slow-mo extra replay of it, I watched 3 or 4 times. I've never seen this before. Maybe in Little League, with a special needs kid or something like that. But Joey Gallo swung at the ball before it even crossed the plate. I mean, before the ball even got to home plate. And I said to myself, I don't think I've ever seen this before. I'm serious. That's how bad he is.
We talked about it. They may rename the Mendoza line after him. I mean,
my God,
65. I don't know.
Mario Mendoza's Rod Carew compared to Joey Gallo.
Anyway, we got enough of our Gallo and I think for the show, but
no, Callow. Oh, you said Gallo. No, I meant Callow. Even that won't work for him.
Yeah. But just I wanted to touch on it because it was very interesting that, again, this whole debate about the LIV tour but I saw Billy Horschel made some comments and like these guys, and I think you and I talked about Pat Perez, right?
We talked on the phone during the week about it.
Yeah, and okay, we get it, but these are B players, and he was saying that the PGA Tour dictated when you could play, and Billy Horschel came out and said, "What are you talking about? You could play when you want, and you don't have to play." So that's what this whole LIV thing. And again, we both agree. Look, if somebody waves $150 million in front of you, I guess you take it. But to hear them bash the PGA Tour like these guys are treated like second-class citizens is just absurd. And I'm glad that Billy Horschel and that Rory McIlroy's came out, and even Justin Thomas. Somebody compared this, one of the Live Tour events to a Ryder Cup, and guys like Justin Thomas were laughing like it's nothing like the Ryder Cup and nothing like playing on the PGA Tour. So I thought it was interesting. And, when you talk about at least Billy Horschel has won, Pat Perez hasn't won anything. So, if you want to go see Pat Perez play an LIV golf, go ahead, because I won't be there.
Pat Perez, again, you and I talked about this. The guy's a good golfer, obviously, because, professional golfer. Pat Perez is in his late 40s. He's probably, my guess is 46, 47. He's probably won 2 or 3 tournaments in 20 years. Nothing of the major. Pat Perez is a beer drinker, great golfer. He's a John Daly type personality. And if somebody's offering him a ton of money, he's going. and he has no qualms about it. And that's why he wore his money shirt and this, that, and the other thing. I don't begrudge Pat Perez whatsoever. Okay, I don't.
But don't.
I don't give him any thought. But I'm not going to knock the guy because he'd be foolish not to go over there and make as much money as he can.
Listen, I'm all about guys. You know, you could do that, but when you make statements that just aren't flat out true, that bothers me. That's so I don't begrudge him taking the money, but don't compare, you know, that tour to the PGA Tour. And you know what? I hope they keep these guys out of the Ryder Cup too. And I think it's a real possibility.
You're way more sensitive about that than I am.
I am sensitive about it. You're right.
Like it goes to one ear and out the other. You think I actually care what Pat Perez has to say?
I know, but it just bothered me that he was saying that,
and not just Pat Perez, but a Pat Perez type in all the major sports.
Yep.
You know.
Anyway, so let's move on, Steve, to our. Unfortunately, we got a kind of a lengthy list of notable passings this week.
I'm getting verklempt already.
Yeah, I know. And I wanted to start out from a sports perspective, and this is a guy I think we both agree we liked him. He was entertaining. Was Hank Goldberg, 82 years
Hammer
old.
and Hank.
You know, and we remember him starting out. I mean, horse racing was his forte, and then he went into the sports, you know, across the board. But he was an entertaining guy, and I actually enjoyed watching him handicap the races, and he was a pretty good handicapper too. Died on his 82nd birthday.
Hank Goldberg was a fixture in Miami, right? Dolphins and, you know, the Miami sports scene. That's where Hank was. Yeah, I equate Hank Goldberg to the late Bob Newmeyer, who passed away last year. So, you know, Bob Newmeyer was Boston, where I, you know, became familiar with him. So I kind of equate those two, which was cool. A Northeast Southern guy doing the handicapping for sports. So Hammer and Hank was well respected by. There's not one person I've heard say one bad word about him.
Yeah, I liked him.
And what I loved about him or heard was last week or a week before he passed, he was in Vegas and he got to see a couple of his pals. Yeah. And he went to Weiss's Deli in Las Vegas, which was his favorite. And to hear that he had his favorite pastrami on rye bread with mustard, you know, a few days before he died, I love that. I was like, cool.
Yeah.
82 years old, great life. R.I.P.
Yep. Me too. How about this? There's a young guy, he's younger than us, Brian Marchment from hockey. Played for a lot of teams. Actually played for 10 teams.
He did.
And like he was kind of a scrapper. I mean, let's face it.
Not kind of a scrapper. He was.
Yeah. 31st in all-time penalty minutes in NHL history, 53 years old.
Sounds right. Brian Marchment. Yeah, I was sad to hear that. I remember him. I mean, I think he played 18 years, like you said, on multiple teams. Wasn't afraid to mix it up with anybody. He was tough. Yeah. And, you know, I hate to hear that at 53. Somebody passing away like that. But, yeah, when I read that, Brian Marchment, absolutely, I absolutely remember it.
Yeah.
All right,
Bill. And Steve, this one's very very emotional for us because you and I we always recognize what our servicemen and women have done in the past. The last recipient from a World War II perspective, Herschel Woody Williams, passed away, and you know. We never forget our veterans, and you know this stung because you know when you're the last of anything, it's important, you know. But he was a hero. I mean, and I saw some previous interviews with him. He was just a gentleman, and what those guys went through. And I certainly wanted to recognize that he just passed away. He was probably in his 90s, obviously, but from World War II.
Oh, yeah.
You can't, for any reason, if we do a notable passing and somebody like that passes away, we would be remiss if we didn't do it. You bet. We're not worthy.
We are not worthy. Yeah. Yeah, when you hear about a great American, it's a great American right there.
Yeah.
And again, we're getting older, and unfortunately, there's only X amount of the greatest generation left. That
Yeah, I know.
But we
'cause I
honor we honor them, and
Yep.
what I when I think of guys like that, I think of I wouldn't be sitting in this chair, and you wouldn't be sitting in the chair, and you wouldn't be down the shore at Diego's house, and I wouldn't have two beautiful kids, and
Right.
Our lives would be completely different, like beyond.
Yeah.
And so that's why when we, Jim and I are just passionate about the United States history and the military and the stories involved of what it's taken over 246 years to defend our freedoms,
Yeah.
and the sacrifices that people like Woody provided. I can't thank him enough, and
Yep.
it really it hits home for me. It really touches my heart.
I wanted to make sure we covered them for sure, because it's a big loss for our country,
Yeah.
So look, let's go right into it. A world of entertainment, right? Sonny Corleone is no mas, right?
Sonny was hot for that deal, wasn't he?
James Caan, 82. There he is.
There he is.
Unbelievable role. But
And it was very nice of him when he threw the camera down to throw the guy a couple bucks afterward.
Yeah, that was very nice. But he had some great movies. He's a kid from Brooklyn, and but we remember, certainly you and I we watched it 1,000 times as kids. Brian's song was so great, and one of the most moving movies ever made. To be quite
Listen, I cry every single time.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't care if people are in the room now. I'm older enough, but we used to be. When we saw it, I was like 8, and you were like 9.5 or something, and we'd watch the movie, and they pretended like can't see anybody cry. You crying? No.
But that's what an actor. When an actor can generate that kind of emotion, and again, they're just actors, but it really was moving to me, and that was just a great story. But he had a great career, and he was also great in many other movies like Misery, that kind of thing.
Misery, There's such great movies ahead. Thief, The Gambler was another one. To me, his role as Tommy Corman in Honeymoon in Vegas is I can't.
I never saw that, actually.
Well, you're gonna have to, because you're gonna I can't believe it, But Nicolas Cage is great in this too. So 82 years old, James Caan. He was like a martial arts guy too. Like he wasn't the biggest guy, but he was a tough guy, and he had a great career. And of course, his Elf. He had a father in Elf, no doubt. I mean, it just he had a sense of humor, right? And he didn't just have to play off the Sonny Corleone Godfather role. He was diverse, well-respected actor, and even Seinfeld. We talk about Seinfeld all the time. Chapter 2. Marsha Mason and James Caan. that Jerry
doesn't opt so happy.
That Jerry thinks the girlfriend lifted the line.
But he was a good actor, and we also lost one of our favorites from The Sopranos, Tony Sirico, obviously Paulie Walnuts for sure.
God.
He absolutely was so freaking funny in that show.
Yeah.
That we would absolutely be remiss if we didn't bring him up. 79.
Yeah, so that was yesterday, actually.
Yeah, was.
Yeah, I kind of went, no. But man, did he provide so many laughs for Jim and I. That, listen, when people watch The Sopranos, you know, but my brother Tom, Jim, myself, our humor, right? We can't even just tell you to the level of the lines that Tony Sirico came up as Paulie Walnuts,
Yep.
his facial expressions, his mannerisms. Oh my God! Like another one. We're not worthy. Thank you.
Big time. And one other guy I was actually surprised he was still around, was Larry Storch, famous for his Corporal Agarn on F Troop.
No doubt.
99 years old he was.
Absolutely. Larry Storch, Forrest Tucker as Sarge, and, Ken Berry as Captain Parmenter. And,
you know what a funny role was? He was in an I Dream of Jeannie episode. He was like, he got changed into a chimp or something. It was so funny.
Not that. He was in 1,000, a Columbo.
Everything.
But Larry Storch,
99.
I got to say, too, I thought he had to have passed 10, 15, 20 years ago. But
me too.
Right. So, the reason we bring up F Troop is, when we grew up, F Troop was on when you got home from school, maybe like 5 o'clock, 5:30, something like that. And that's all we did was.
And it was so ridiculous that it was funny.
Oh, my God. Like beyond ridiculous.
But anyway, so that's our notable passing list. And Steve, it's the middle of summer, and I hope everybody had a great 4th of July. And again, congratulations to your daughter Emily on her graduation, and
thank you.
All the best to her.
I'm taking my son up on Wednesday to UMass Amherst for a lacrosse showcase, and I haven't stepped foot on the UMass campus in long time. So looking forward to entering the Commonwealth.
Yep. And listen, we would love to hear from you guys. So send us an email at sportswithmonoandmono@gmail.com. And Steve, enjoy your week. Producer Rob, thank you.
Rob, thank you. Jim, enjoy the beach. Diego, hello. And thank you to all our loyal listeners. And we'll talk to you next week.
We'll talk to you next week. Bye.
Bye.